The church bells in Dusty Hollow rang only once that spring. The sound didn't mark a wedding or celebration. It marked another funeral. The people of the small western town bowed their heads as rancher Eli Turner lowered the casket of his wife, Clara, into the earth. His 6-year-old daughter, Annie, clutched a single wildflower, her small fingers trembling. When the ceremony ended, Eli didn't speak a word. He just lifted his daughter into his arms, tipped his hat, and rode home to the ranch where Laughter had once lived. But Laughter had gone silent since that day. The following months rolled like tumbleweeds, empty, dry, and lonely. Eli woke before dawn to tend the cattle, cooked what little he could for Annie, and tried to smile when she asked for bedtime stories her mother used to tell. But his voice always cracked by the end. One morning, Eli rode into town for supplies. Annie followed close behind, her bonnet too big for her head. The general store was crowded that day. News had spread that the town preacher was helping a few young women find homes through the mail-order bride listings. Eli didn't think much of it. He came for nails, not a wife. Until Annie tugged his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, look." At the corner of the store stood a woman in a simple cream dress. She was tall, with soft brown hair braided neatly and eyes that seemed to hold both sorrow and strength. She didn't speak much, just stood by the stove, holding a small suitcase. "That's Miss Lily Harper," the shopkeeper said quietly. "She came from Kansas, looking for work or a home." Eli nodded politely but said nothing. He'd made peace with solitude, or so he thought. A few days later, Annie fell ill with fever. The doctor from town couldn't come right away, and panic set in. Eli stayed by her bedside, sponging her forehead, whispering stories, begging the heavens not to take another piece of his heart. Then came a knock at the door. It was Lily Harper, soaked from rain, holding a basket of herbs and medicine. "Mrs. Davis said your little girl was sick," she said softly. "May I help?" Eli hesitated, then stepped aside. Lily moved with calm confidence, tending to Annie, making broth, and praying quietly under her breath. When Annie finally opened her eyes and smiled faintly, Eli felt something he hadn't felt in months: hope. Days turned into weeks. Lily stayed on to help around the ranch. She cooked, mended clothes, and even fixed the old curtains that had long lost their color. She never complained, never asked for anything. Sometimes, when the evening sun painted the sky gold, Eli would find her sitting on the porch humming an old hymn while Annie braided flowers into her hair. "She looks like Mama," Annie said once, looking up with innocent eyes. "Can she stay forever?" Eli's throat tightened. "We'll see, sweetheart," he whispered. But not everyone in town was kind. Whispers followed Lily wherever she went. "She's not from here. Probably running from something. Eli's a fool for taking her in." The gossip reached the ranch eventually, but Lily said nothing. She'd faced worse before, and she'd found something worth protecting here. Peace, warmth, and a little girl who loved her like family. One afternoon, the town announced a spring gathering. Annie begged Eli to go, and for her sake, he agreed. When they arrived, the hall buzzed with laughter, fiddle music, and the scent of baked pies. But when Lily walked in, silence fell for a moment. She looked nervous, clutching her skirt. Then Annie's voice rang out, loud and clear. "Daddy, she looks like Mommy." Every head turned. Eli froze. The room went quiet again. Lily's eyes filled with tears, and she looked down embarrassed. But then Eli did something no one expected. He stepped forward, offered her his arm, and said gently, "Then maybe it's time we dance again." The music resumed. Whispers softened. Under the glow of lantern light, Eli and Lily danced slowly. Awkward at first, then gracefully, like two souls finding rhythm after years of silence. Annie clapped and laughed, the sound echoing like sunlight after a storm. From that night on, something changed at the Turner Ranch. Lily began teaching Annie to read and write, using the old books Clara once loved. Eli found himself lingering by the kitchen door, watching them, Lily's soft laughter, Annie's bright smile. He hadn't realized how deeply he missed that sound. But one evening, as Lily washed dishes by lantern light, she spoke quietly. "Mr. Turner, there's something you should know," she said. "Back in Kansas, I was promised to a man who hurt people. I ran before the wedding. If he finds me, it could bring trouble." Eli looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Lily, this ranch has seen storms before. If trouble comes, we'll face it. Together." It wasn't just words. It was a promise. Weeks passed, and spring turned to summer. Life bloomed again. Cattle were healthy, the fields green, and laughter had finally returned to the porch. Then one hot afternoon, a rider appeared on the ridge, a tall man in a black coat. Eli knew instantly who it was before Lily even whispered the name. Clay Boone. He rode up, sneering. "Thought you could hide, Lily? You belong to me." Eli stepped between them, calm but firm. "She belongs to no one." Clay spat on the ground, his hand twitching toward his holster. But before he could draw, the townsfolk, alerted by the commotion, gathered near the gate. Sheriff Holden rode in, rifle at his side. "Boone," the sheriff called, "you're wanted in Kansas for robbery and assault. Best ride out now." For a long moment, Boone stared at Lily, hatred burning in his eyes. Then he turned and rode away, dust trailing behind like a bad dream finally leaving. Lily sank to her knees, shaking. Eli knelt beside her, his hand steady on her shoulder. "It's over," he said softly. "You're safe now." That evening, the sky turned pink and gold. Lily stood by the corral, watching the horses graze. Eli joined her, silent for a while. "You don't have to stay," he finally said. "But if you do, this can be your home. Our home." Lily looked up, eyes glistening. "I don't want to leave, Eli. I've been running all my life. But here, with you, with Annie, I feel like I've finally stopped." He smiled, a rare, tender thing. "Then don't go." Months later, the church bells rang again, this time for a wedding. The small town gathered, not in judgment but in joy. Annie walked proudly ahead, holding wildflowers, her curls bouncing. When the preacher asked if Lily would take Eli as her husband, she smiled through tears and said, "With all my heart." And when he asked Eli the same, the rancher simply looked at his daughter, now smiling brighter than ever, and then at the woman beside him. "I already have," he said. That night, the Turner Ranch glowed with lanterns. Music filled the air, and Annie danced barefoot under the stars. Lily watched her, her heart full, while Eli wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "She looks so happy," Lily whispered. Eli nodded. "She's got her mother's spirit, and her new mama's smile." Lily turned to him, eyes shimmering. "You really think so?" He smiled. "I know so." Above them, the prairie stars burned bright, and for the first time in years, the Turner Ranch was full, not of sorrow but of life. And from that day forward, whenever the townsfolk passed the ranch, they'd see a little girl chasing fireflies, a woman humming softly, and a cowboy smiling like a man who'd found heaven right there on the open range. Because sometimes, love doesn't return as a storm.